Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Keenan. I'm CEO and owner at Coaching with Melissa Keenan. I'm an intimacy coach, and I help women to access that deep, powerful, raw intimacy in themselves and then apply it in every aspect of their lives. So I'm super excited to come on today and talk to you about accessing your wild inner seductress. And I started out this by saying, I just made a post in the event talking about how I'm a Mormon tantrika. So I'm like a walking contradiction. Most people who know me think like I'm Molly Mormon. And I also am very open in the world, sharing what I feel and what I know, what I have felt called to with regard to intimacy and feminine energy and owning and embracing our sensuality. And it's a lot of fun. So if you're in it for the journey with me, say hello in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm excited to share this stuff with you. So I think we need to start by talking about what keeps us from accessing this part of ourselves or even contemplating that we have a wild inner seductress. So yeah, if you're watching, raise your hand if you're thinking, I'm intrigued, but I didn't even know I had a wild inner seductress. Hi, Beja. Thank you for saying hello. Because I get that a lot. I get that a lot, actually, where women are like, that makes me so uncomfortable. And I get where all of those things are coming from society, from trauma, in some ways we have felt that in order to protect ourselves, we have to just shut sex out totally, which is so opposite of what like our God-given nature is, right? Women are the only, ones out of men and women, and I think the only mammals on the planet who have a pleasure organ. Have you ever thought about that? How cool is that, right? We have a pleasure organ. And so clearly that's not a part of us that was meant to be shut down or shunned or pushed away or wrong or dirty, right? Hi, Marta. Hi, Terry. Okay, so we don't access these parts of ourselves. Another part of the equation in this is that the idea of being wild in and of itself. A lot of times when I start out with a client, I'm like, I kind of push their buttons and I'm like, okay, like, I want them to be wild and not in a sexual way. Like, I'm not a hands-on coach. That stuff is not me. But I want them to be wild. I want them to like express themselves in ways that they haven't previously. They've been in boxes, haven't allowed themselves to do. And I've had women just be like, I cannot do what you're asking me to do. Because we have boxes. Brene Brown in her studies, raise your hand if you're a Brene Brown fan. I love Brene Brown and her work. In her studies, she found that despite all of our super strong feminist movement that we have going on in our world right now, women still believe that we have to be small and we have to be meek and we have to be humble and we have to be quiet. Doesn't that just like kind of feels like sandpaper when I say that stuff? It feels like sandpaper because I feel like there's this part inside of us that says no, like no more. And then we see this giant swing to the other side of the spectrum in the feminist movement, right? Where it's like, then I'll just be like a man and I'll be super firm and assertive and I'll go show that I can make a ton of money and I'll, prove all the systems wrong. And that's amazing. But in the process, I think we're still losing ourselves. We're still like succumbing to different boxes. So can you kind of see this in yourself? Can you kind of see this? It's a cognitive dissonance, right? Where part of us wants to just be free and just express ourselves however, And the other part of us is like, no, stay small, stay quiet. Don't make your needs too big. Don't be too much. In fact, I'd love to hear if you're willing to share in the comments. Look, I know I'm asking for vulnerability because, hello, I'm an intimacy coach. We can't get anywhere without vulnerability. But I'd love to hear in the comments if you've ever worried about being too much for your partner. I know I have. And I know it still shows up for me. You know, I'm here teaching about this. Oh, yay. Hi, Monica. Glad you're here. Raise your hand if you've ever worried about being too much for your partner. I think that it's innate in all of us, isn't it? Like, it's like we were born with these messages of, thank you, Vanita, for sharing. Born with these messages of like, play small. And then even if we felt like, oh, like, you know, open-hearted and carefree, you're around 3 and 4 years old and you're open-hearted and you're carefree and you're playful and you have big vision and stuff, and someone says something like, the message for me was, stop being such a spaz. And then a little older, my uncle would always say, hold it down. I am loud and I'm fun and I'm big energy and I love to be that way. But I've conditioned myself out of being that way, right? Worried about being too much for people. I'll never forget when I was in high school and my boyfriend was like, we're walking through the halls and he goes, you're talking so loud. Oh my gosh, like a rush of shame. Whew, I can still feel it when I talk about that. Wow. A rush of shame came over me. Like, I am so bad for being big, for being loud. So what does all this have to do with your wild inner seductress? Let's bring it all back. Yeah, right, Beja, right? I hope I'm saying your name right. What does this have to do with being your wild inner seductress? Well, here's the thing. If we're giving ourselves all these conditions and boxes in our day-to-day life, obviously we're giving ourselves conditions and boxes in the bedroom. Even in a place where you feel like, I have developed a safety in this space. I'm in a committed relationship, or I'm in a committed marriage. We made, sacred promises to each other. There's a safety here, and I now have a full green light to be whatever I want to be in this sacred space with my partner. And yet we hold way back because we're scared of being too big, too much. And I'm talking about these, these are the negative effects that are just natural consequences of being raised in a society where the air we breathe says be small. So this isn't you doing anything wrong. If you thought you were doing something wrong, if you thought your sex drive was shut down because you did something wrong, I'm here to say you didn't do anything wrong. You haven't done anything wrong. It's the air we breathe that tells us to be small. And so you would never fault someone for getting lung cancer if they were surrounded by smoke every day of their life. You would say, oh, baby, that sucks. Like, right? Let's get you out of that environment and try and get you some help and some treatment and some support, right? This is us. The air we breathe says be small. And so we be small. We've learned it. We've done a pretty good job. Freaking sucks. And then it affects our sex life. Okay, then it also, let's take this to the next level because we're here in Women Helping Women Entrepreneurs. Take this to our business. This seems obvious, right? But let's just state the obvious. If I'm playing small in my home, as a mother, in my marriage, in my sex life, I'm probably struggling with showing up in my business. I'm probably struggling with wanting to hide there, or at least wanting to hide certain parts, or be very controlling about the way I show up in the world. Is this landing? Is this landing it? Anybody? It's making sense? The connection between business and sex is real. I get this all the time. People are like, oh my gosh, you should have seen my post a few months ago. It was like, I said something about business and sex, and people are going on and on about how I'm talking about, being a prostitute or something. Like, no, we're not talking about that. We're just talking about how you show up in your sex is going to affect how you're showing up in your life and in your business. Okay, so now let's flip the script. Let's talk about what it looks like when you have drawn her out. Your wild inner seductress. I love this phrase. When you have drawn her out, what does that look like? Okay, so I want to, and here's what I want to say to this. 5 years ago, if I had heard myself say what I'm about to say, I would have said, I don't relate, but I want to know more about that. So if you find yourself going, I've never experienced that before, you're not alone. But maybe you can open yourself up to the possibility, because this is the possibility. Do you know that place when you're in that safe container, that sacred, beautiful intimacy space with your partner? And it's like, yes, we're naked, but somehow all of a sudden we're naked in other ways, in deeper ways. We're like emotionally open and raw. We're more open and receptive, like our heart is open. Even our, even in our bodies, right? Where you're in this space where all of a sudden you've stopped worrying about how you look, how you smell, how you whatever, and you're just like in sensation. You're in the moment and you're connecting with this person. And it's like your souls are dancing together, just interweaving, dancing with each other in the midst of your physical bodies, dancing together. And you get to this point where there's this like total freedom. All of a sudden, maybe you find urges of like wanting to cry or crying and not even knowing why, or wanting to like bite something, or like feeling aggressive, or wanting to like dance or really express yourself, or something crazy. And you find yourself and you're thinking, who is this person? I have not and you're just in it. You're going with it, right? That's your wild inner seductress. Right, Shannon. That's your wild inner seductress. So if you relate to that place, then wonderful. Anchor into that memory. Remember that time. If you don't relate, then take my word for it. Bring an image to your mind, because this literally is possible. And it's possible. I want to send in this little like caveat that's super important here. It's possible if you have a shutdown sex drive. It's possible if your husband has erectile dysfunction. It's possible if you're going through menopause. It doesn't have to involve intercourse. Like we got to get out of all the boxes, right? So all of that's possible even when you have like serious limitations that may make it seem like, actually, this is all off the table for me. Okay? So, and I'm not going to go way deep into that. Certainly reach out to me if you're in one of those situations. I've got lots of videos where I've done trainings on that, and I work with people in those kinds of situations as well. But this is your wild inner seductress. And so in that space, so much is possible. You literally can manifest your life with your partner. You literally can co-create together with God. You can bring in, spiritual experiences. You can bring your body into greater awareness and embodiment. You can find, that like harmony, that union of those flames of masculine and feminine energy, right? It's so amazing. I even call it like your sacred portal. You two can enter a sacred portal together. It's so amazing. But just think about who you're being, or who you would need to be to show up in sex in that way. Who would you need to be? Who would you be being? Who would you be embodying? That version of you. Take her, plop her into your business. She's not inappropriate. No, I'm not talking about weird stuff, right? Again, Mormon Tantrika over here. I'm not talking about weird stuff. I'm talking about that wild, carefree, confident, I don't care. I'm not going to worry about my insecurities. I'm not going to worry about, anything, any of the boxes that hold me back. I'm going to just show up in the world with my bright, radiant heart, my bright, radiant voice, and I'm going to just be whatever I feel like is channeling through me. I'm going to be in my sensations, and I'm going to be honoring myself. Okay, can you see how that you being that, embodying that is going to like 10x your business. Especially if you can do it consistently. Is this resonating, you guys? Again, business and sex are connected, right? This is the possibility. And it's not just a nice idea. I'm here to say that it's a necessity. We're in these changing times right now. And it's so easy to cave to fear, right? It's like all around me. Every single day there's like it's almost like, like fear knocking on my front door every day. And I'm like, am I going to like open the door and then say, no, thank you, have a nice day, close the door? Or am I going to just fling the door open and say, come on in? Right? Like I feel like every day that is the case. Are you guys feeling that right now? It's crazy. And in this time where society is shifting so quickly, things can change so quickly right now. There is quantum movement happening. In that space, we need you to access her, the wild inner seductress. Because she's intuitive. She's connected. She's connected to God or the universe, to her source, to her own divinity, to her power, to her voice, to her purpose. She's strong in her relationships. And heavens knows that relationships are under attack right now. There's movements of men about, I don't need women. We've been hearing women say for a long time, I don't need men. I don't need relationships. I don't need anybody. The family's under attack. We've got so many issues showing up, trying to attack our strong, committed relationships. And yet, they're probably the only unit of society that will not crumble in a coming day. Everything else that we put our faith in, our governments, our banks, blah, 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 they don't really have a whole lot of security. There's not a lot of safety there. There is a beautiful foundation in our relationships, and we need you. The real you, the true you, to come forward and shine and be in that. She's the one who has like lasers coming out of her fingers and who can command the planets and who can easily call in $1 million and clients and who's impacting and changing lives and who has a big heart. This is the you that we need. And this is why intimacy is so important. And so if you find yourself going, man, like that's what I want to create. I want more of that. I want to be that person. And this speaks whether you're in a relationship or not, or whether you're in one of those limitations or not. You just want that next level. We need you to come forward into me, see, so that you can show up in your relationships, you can show up in your voice and your work in the world. And then you can show up in your home. You can show up in your community. This is landing, guys. Okay, if this is resonating with you, I would love to hold a quick 15-minute call with you. I'll put my link in the calendar, in the comments, my link to my calendar in the comments. If this is resonating and you're like, I want to be around other women who feel this way. There's been a lot of commenting going on in these comments. You're wanting to link arms with other women who are like, yes, I have big purpose and passion in the world, and I really prioritize relationships, intimacy, my feminine embodiment. I also run a Facebook group there, and I'll post that in the comments as well. It's called Women Manifesting Intimacy. Go look me up. I'd love to connect with you. And I'd most of all love to talk to you about what you've experienced personally. Because it's nice to talk about this in a philosophical way, but it really hits home, doesn't it? It's pretty personal when we start to talk about the things we face with regard to intimacy. And I want you to know that I want to hold that container for you. And maybe you've shared stuff with people in the past. You've been burned. I know that stuff like that is happening. I just want you to know I see you in that. And if that's the case and you're like, I'm not ready to reach out, but I want this. I want more of this. Keep showing up. Keep watching. Show up in my Facebook group. Come and when you're ready, let's connect. Thanks so much, guys.